In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a lyric video or a karaoke video. And we can take an audio file or a video to create this lyric video. So I'm going to be working with this audio from the song Losers by Post Malone. And we have this Jupyter notebook. Let me zoom in. And in this Jupyter notebook, we create that lyric video. And I'll share this in my GitHub so you can work with your own. So to start, we need to install OpenAI Whisper. And Whisper is a transcriber model, so it's OpenAI's speech-to-text model. And in order to get it to work on your computer, you need to have FFmpeg installed. So just go to the OpenAI Whisper GitHub repo, and you should see where all the instructions for installing Whisper. You can see them right here, I think. So that you'll need FFmpeg in order to run Whisper. So I'm going to run everything just because, actually I'll just run it as I explain it. So I installed OpenAI Whisper, and then here is where I would define my inputs. So what I want my desired audio to be of the final video. And I want that to be the original song for the lyric video because it's two separate videos. The lyric video is like the original song with the lyrics in the format of a video. And then the karaoke video is the instrumental with the lyrics shown on the screen. So first I need to download this audio, and I actually use a tool called 4K video downloader, and then I paste it and then I can download it. Once I have it downloaded, I need to move it into that folder here, the inputs. So I'll just drag this file and I'm going to name this, I'll just name it original just because I want to keep the names the same here. And then to transcribe this, I want to get the vocals, just the vocals for this song. I use a tool called Ease US, and there I can upload a file. I'm actually not logged in, so let me log in really quickly. Okay, I'm logged in and I'm using a free account. So that means that I'm limited to, I think, one upload per day, but that's enough. I don't need more than that. Let me see. This file is available at this path. So upload the video, and it's going to extract the vocals and then separate out the instrumentals as well. You can see that it's just processing right now. It takes a few seconds. It doesn't take too long. I don't know if they have an API, but if they did, this is one part that you can further automate. Okay, so it finished extracting the vocals and the instrumentals. So I'll just go to the bottom right hand corner and click download all. And then it just gives you the option. It tries to upsell you every time. Just click on get started. If you're logged in, this should work. And then I'll go to my downloads and move those files over to this inputs folder. These are the downloaded files, so I will just drag those over to the inputs. And then for the vocals, I'll just rename this as vocals. And this one's the instrumental MP3, so instrumental. Okay, so I have my original file, which is the original song. We'll need that for the lyric video. I have my vocals, and then background image. So I, in the past, have used Dolly. So I've used ChatGPT to generate an image for that song. And I have a YouTube channel for these videos that I create that I'll share later in this video. But for this video, I'm just going to use the screenshot of this video. And that's good enough. And then once I have that screenshot, I'll move it over to this folder. Actually, that one's not going to be a good one because it has letters. And then if I'm trying to superimpose words over these words, then it's not going to look good. So I do have to have an image with no words in the background. Okay, I took a screenshot of the video. Once I start playing it, it gets rid of those words. And then I want to name it background image just so that I don't have to change the file names here. You could just you could have them named whatever you want, and then just make sure that these reflect the right path to those files. Okay, so I have my 4 input files, the desired audio being the original audio, so the original song. The audio to transcribe is just the vocals. The image file name, I can actually play those vocals for you from here. Last call.
last chancers, 9 to 5ers, truckers, dancers, couple chucks.
So this is the path to the vocals file, and then the path to the image that I want to use as my background for my final video, and then the instrumental path. And then lastly, these two variables here, this is delta time. This is for when, if the transcription, you notice that it's off, sometimes it can be a little bit ahead. So the subtitles or the caption, the lyrics will be a little bit ahead of the words or sometimes a little bit behind. So this is just to adjust for that, just in case. It doesn't happen all the time, but in case it does, you can set it to half a second, so that would be 0.5. And then this is the lyrics. The reason we paste the lyrics, and I got the lyrics from the Genius website. Go to genius.com, search for the song that you want. And then again, this probably has an API, or you could just crawl the website for the lyrics if you want to automate this a little bit further. So I copied these lyrics and then just made sure that they're in one line, and I pasted them here. And the reason I do that is because if you have the lyrics and you provide them to the transcriber model, then it's going to transcribe it very accurately. If you don't provide it, then it's likely it will get some words wrong, or it may not transcribe certain sections because the transcriber model isn't perfect, and sometimes it won't catch the word correctly. And doing this, you want to reduce the amount of time you spend editing, and if I do this, then it'll transcribe the words correctly and I don't have to correct the transcription. Alright, so once I've defined all my inputs, the next step is to extract the audio from the video file. So I want to import all of these libraries. The datetime, I just import it so that I can create a current time of when I ran this, and then I use that for the file name so that it doesn't overwrite any files. But I start out by extracting just the file name from the desired audio. So that would be just original. That's what this is going to give me. And then I use that to create a new file path at outputs using the current time. And this is sans extension, so without the extension. And then I take the audio that was given to me by the vocal remover, Ease Us, and I convert it to an MP3 because it gives it to me in a, actually it gave it to me in an MP4. This won't run because it's already an MP4. And then let me just run this. Actually, I didn't run this either. I'll run that one, and then I'll run this one. And the next thing is to install FFmpeg Python. You'll need this in addition to installing FFmpeg on your computer. This is the Python library, and the other one is for using FFmpeg inside of your computer, not just with Python. So once that is installed, I can import it, FFmpeg, and then the desired audio, that's the original song, right? If it ends with MP4 or M4A, then I just need to convert it. That's what this is for. I'm just converting this into an MP3 format because that's ultimately what I want to work with. And that's all this is doing. I'm creating the desired audio path with MP3 as the extension, creating the output stream, and then saving the audio from this desired audio and saving it into this path. Once I've done that, let me just run it. It's going through that, and because it does end in M4A, it does need to convert it. And it looks like it was converted successfully. And I can view that audio, or I can preview it by running this. I import this audio class, give it the desired audio, and then I can check to make sure that I'm working with the right audio file. All right, that's the right one. So the next step would be to get the word level transcription. Basically take the speech and convert it to text from the audio using OpenAI's Whisper. I import Whisper, it's already been installed. And then you have different options for the model size, the transcriber model size. Medium works really well. Tiny is not as accurate, but it's a lot faster because these models, I think this one's 1.6 gigabytes. So loading this will take some time if you have a slow internet connection. There's a large model, it's much larger in size, but I don't need it because the medium one is pretty accurate. So once I load, this will take a few seconds. All right, just finished loading the model. It only took 8 seconds. Now I'm ready to start transcribing the audio. So the audio to transcribe, remember, that's just the vocals, because I want to remove the music so that the transcriber can transcribe the words more accurately. And because I use this tool here to extract the vocals, the time for the start of this word is going to be the same time as in the original song, and that's why this works. So I'll run this, and while it's running, I'll explain what it's doing. You do a model.transcribe, and then you provide it with the path to the audio that you want to transcribe. And then you set the word timestamps to true. This is so that you don't just get phrase level timestamps. You want to get Descript level. If you've ever used Descript, they give you timestamps for each single word that's said. You can give it a prompt, and the prompt for the transcriber model is different than the prompt that you would give an LLM, a large language model like ChatGPT. You're not prompting it with like instructions on how it should transcribe or like details about the song. The prompt is basically like a snippet of text that it should use to get started. So if you're like uploading an interview for the model to transcribe, then the initial prompt could be like, hey, my name is Ernie, I'm here with John, interviewing him, and so on, so that the model understands like where the speech, like what's the theme, I guess. And this is where I provide the lyrics so that it can transcribe them accurately. And once it does finish transcribing, then I can get the whole transcription as a paragraph in the text attribute of the result object. And then the segments, the individual phrases that it got or the words that it got, I can get them in the segments attribute. So I just finished. It took a little bit over a minute and a half. And it gave me this warning. You don't have to worry about it. It's just saying that floating point 16 is not supported on CPU because I don't have a GPU. This model does run a lot faster if you have a GPU, because that's the case with all machine learning models. But it still works. It's just a little slower. So once it has finished transcribing, I can move on. I want to print the transcription, so I will import this simple namespace, and I'll run this cell here so that I can view the transcription, and you can see that the words are right here, 9to5ers, and it gives you the timestamps for each word all the way to the end. And here I want to take these segments, and I want to extract the word, the start time, and the end time for that word, and then put it inside of a list. So this is going to be a list of dictionaries, and this list is called word level info. It's going to contain all of my details, so I'll run that cell, and we can view it. So you can see it's just a list of all the words that were said, along with their start time and their end time, the word level timestamps. And then the next step is to create a simple UI to edit any errors if you want to make any corrections to the audio or to the transcription. So I'll just run these cells so that we can take a look at what that editor looks like. So what it's doing is creating a table, and you can see that the name of the table columns is start, end, and word. So you have the start time, the end time, and then the word. Then using this IPy widgets library, we import the widgets. We're going to create this UI, which takes the value of the start time, the end time, and then the word, and then it adds it to a row. And then you add that row widget to a list of table rows. And then you want to create a button. This button is to update this button is, we're going to name it update because that's what it's going to do. And then we create an output area variable that's going to be our widget output. And then we need to create a function that's going to run anytime we click on this button here, this update button. We need to run a function. It's going to receive the events that we clicked, and it's going to update the word level info. The purpose of this UI is to display the word level timestamps, and then if we catch any errors on there, then we can make the edits, and then once we click on the button update, it'll run this function and update the list that has the word level timestamps. So you can see it's going to open up that output area, and then for every row in the table of rows, it's going to take the values that it has for that row, the start time, the end time, and then the word, and then it's going to add it to this new variable called updated word level info, because this is different from our previous list, word level info, because now it's updated with any edits that we've made. And then we want to make sure that these updated word level info are available outside of our function, so we just assign it to the variable that we had created before, modified word level info. This is the same as word level info, but just with the edits that we've made. And you can see that we have this event handler. When we click on that button, then it will run this function. So I'll run that, and then I want to create the table widget and display it. So I'll run that, and you can see that these are the words along with their timestamps. So if I notice, if I'm going through this, and you don't have to do this, but if you want to be careful with your transcriptions, you have this nice UI to make those edits. But I'm just going to say, this looks good. I don't have any changes to make, but if I did, then I would click update here. This would be the updated list. This would contain the updates that I made. But because I don't want to go through that trouble and I just want to be able to run this, then I'm just going to say that the updated version is just the same as before. That's why I have this line. So just remove this. If you want to continue with your edits, then just don't reassign the value. Okay, so the modified word level info is the same as before. Okay, the next step would be to store those edits, the word level timestamps, into a JSON file, because say for some reason your code stops running or it gets interrupted, then you'll have this file that you can load later. Okay, so I will go ahead and save to this Sounds extension the subtitles in the form of JSON. Now that those subtitles are available, I can make edits directly on that file. So if I look at my list of files, I can see that JSON here. You can see that the word level timestamps are available here. And I can make changes here too. And this file you can use later. You can continue to make changes on here and then just save it. And anytime you want to update your final video, you can just load from that file instead of having to retranscribe and make edits. So this is if I am working on a video and the transcriber got the transcription wrong and I want to make changes. This is where I make my changes. I don't really use this UI, but I wanted to give you the option, so I left it in there. But this is where I would make my changes, and then I would just continue with my code from step 6 onward, because from here it loads that file. Let's just say I've made some changes and I save it. Then I click this, and then it's loaded this JSON into this variable here, word level info modified, and we can take a look at what's in there, but it's basically just that JSON. So if I don't like, for example, when I produce the final video, I notice that a certain section of the video has a wrong transcription, or maybe some words were combined or have the wrong timestamp, then I can just make those changes here and then run my code from step 6 onward without having to load the model, transcribe it, and then make those edits again. Okay, the next step is to convert those word level timestamps, that JSON file, to line level timestamps in the form of JSON. So we want to create, when we display the lyrics in the video, we want them to display as a phrase. We don't want to just show one word at a time. We want to show the entire phrase and highlight specific words as they are being spoken. So in order to do that, we have this function called split text into lines, and it does just that. It takes the transcription, which is just the lyrics, and it's going to split them into phrases. And the technique that I have for working with lyrics is different than how I would create one for a different piece of text. So if I were working with a different transcription, then maybe I would split by punctuation, because you would want to split at the end of a phrase. And then you would also want to make sure that there's not a huge gap in between your phrases, or otherwise you could split there. And for lyrics, it's a little bit difficult because sometimes there is no punctuation in the transcription. And sometimes with music and in lyrics, the phrases may not be complete sentences. Like a singer could sing a phrase for a long time and then take a big pause before continuing on with the sentence, right? So it's pretty difficult to split the lyrics. But another approach would be, if you really wanted to perfect this, you could edit the lyrics or edit the word level info, and you could add new line characters in your transcription. That way you can add like some splitter here where it splits. Anytime there's a new character, it'll split that phrase. That way, you show the phrase that you want. And this will make more sense once we create the final video. But I'll go through this function that I have. The max characters, this is to set how many characters I want to display at once in my lyric video, and I just set it to 100, because if it's more than that, it might be too many characters that are shown all at once, and so it should, it has to cut it somewhere. You can think of a song like a rap song, or like specifically Eminem in Rap God, or some song where he's rapping really fast and saying lots and lots of words in a short period of time. You wouldn't want to show 100 words or whatever, because that's how many words he says in like a minute. Or actually, that wouldn't make sense either. Maybe if he said 20 words in 10 seconds, that's maybe too many words to show. So that's what the purpose of that is. And then the max duration, this is how long each phrase should last on the screen. If it's longer than 10 seconds, then you should split it. And then another split point is the max gap. So if in between words the next word isn't spoken for more than a quarter of a second, so 250 milliseconds, then split it there. So if the singer is taking a pause to take a breath and then continuing, that'd be a good point to split. This will make more sense once you see the final videos. So we create these variables, subtitles. This is where we're going to store the subtitles that we'll display. And then the line is to store the current line that we're on. Or actually, I think it's the current line that we're on. As we're creating it, we're going through each word. We're going to iterate through the data. And this data is really just the word level info. And as we iterate through it, we're iterating through each word. And we're adding the words to the line. And then the line duration should be how long from the start of the first word to the end of the last word, how long is that phrase. And then the current gap is just keeping track of whether we're exceeding this max gap or not. So we iterate through the data, which is the word level info. We take the start time of the current word that we're on. We take the end time. We create what's called the current gap. We define it. The size is just the length of the current word that we're on and the end of the previous word. If we're at the start of the lyrics, so we're at index 0, then the gap should just be 0 because there was no previous word. But if we're on the second word, the gap is the distance between when the second word started and when the previous word ended. And then we want to know if the gap was exceeded, so is the current gap greater than the max gap that we have defined. The next thing is we need to calculate the line duration. So how long is the current line, which we're just going to add duration of the current word, which is we defined the end of the word here and then the start of the word here. So we're just adding that to the current line duration. And actually, I probably should add the current gap as well. I'm surprised I didn't have this before, but obviously if there's a gap, we want to add that to the line duration. But for now, I'm just going to delete it because I don't want it to cause any issues. But yeah, I do think that we need to have that in there. And then we want to check if the line duration is longer than allowed. So right now, the line duration is just what it was before in the previous iteration plus the current length of the current word. So have we exceeded it? This variable will store true or false. And then we want to calculate how many characters we would have. And then we want to calculate how many characters we would have in the line if we were to add the current word. So this is the current word, and then this is what the line, meaning the current phrase or the phrase that we're on before we've added the current word. So this is a temporary variable to store all of those words into a string. And then we want to see if we were to add this new word, this current word, into the current phrase, how long would it be? And then we can calculate has the number of characters been exceeded by adding this new word into the current phrase, and that'll be stored in this variable, characters exceeded, true or false. And then if the duration has been exceeded, or the number of characters, or the max gap has been exceeded, then we'll start a new line. If there is a current line, then we'll create what's called a subtitle line, because remember, we've exceeded it, and there is a current line that we're working with right now that it has a length. That means there are words in there. And because we've exceeded it in some way, then we need to split it. So we'll call this the subtitle line. We'll just end it. We'll end the line by taking the words that have been added into the line up to that point, and that excludes the current word that we're on. And then we'll take the duration, or the start time and the end time of that line, to be the start time of the first word and then the end time of the last word in that line. And then the content is just the contents of that line. And then we add it to the list of subtitles. And then we start a new line using the current word because we have exceeded it. So now we need to start a new line with the current word. And then we set the duration to be just the time for this, that this word is spoken for. But if we haven't exceeded it, then that means we're safe to add, we're in this condition here, we're safe to add that word into the current line. So that's all we do. And then it moves on to the next word. So we'll go through this again. If the next word we're trying to add exceeds the characters or the duration, or there's a gap, then it'll end the line and start a new one with the next word that we're working with, and so on. By the time this is over, if we have reached the end of all of the words and there is still a current line, meaning there are words in the line, then we need to end it to make sure that we add them to the subtitles. And that's why we're checking for that here. So that function, I will just run this cell here. So I'm going to run the split text into lines on the word level info modified. Remember, this is the JSON object here. So it's made the splits, and we can take a look at how it split it by running this. You can see last callers was one phrase or one line. Last chancers, 9 to 5ers is another one. And then truckers, it's by itself. It's probably because you can see that there was a gap, a big gap, 1546 to 1572. That was more than a quarter of a millisecond, so a quarter of a second, so more than 250 milliseconds, and that's why it's on its own line. And then for the same reason, the next gap is 300 milliseconds, so it's more than 250, and that's why this was alone. And you can see this is the phrase that's going to be displayed for this period of time. Okay, so now that we have our phrases, and this is actually what I was talking about earlier, where if you look at the phrases for these lyrics, it might not make sense how it's being split. For example, my therapist is a good bartender, heartbreakers, and 2-month benders. Bad times that. So you can see there's probably 3 phrases right here. My therapist is a good bartender, and then split. Heartbreakers and 2-month benders, and then split. Bad times that we can't forget, split. So if you wanted to, you could manually split the lyrics so that your final video can be perfect, and the phrases that are displayed aren't chopped up like this. But I couldn't think of, before creating this video, I couldn't think of a way to do that with these lyric videos. So if you do come up with a better solution, please comment and maybe even make a pull request in my GitHub. Okay, so now that we have the phrase level subtitles, we need to highlight the word that is being spoken as it's being spoken. And that's why we have this function here, create caption video. It's going to take in the word level info modified, and then the frame size, we can define the frame size for how wide the subtitles should be displayed. And then for font, I have this custom font that I imported into ImageMagick. Is that what it's called? I imported this. You can look up how to, but any font that is used by MoviePy, it uses all the fonts that are available to, I think it's called Image Magic, and it has a set number of, in fact, I can actually go, I have some snippet of code down here. You can take a look at all of the fonts that are available in MoviePy, and you can see these are all of them. And I wanted something unique, so I downloaded a custom font and then imported it into the folder. You can find a video on that on YouTube. There's a few steps involved. That's not what this video is about, so just use one of the ones that is already available if you don't want to go through that step. And then I just define the color to be white. That's the color of the words. And then the highlight color, this is as the words being spoken, it's going to be yellow. And then the stroke color, this is like the trace of the on the word, so that it's more visible. The white word is going to have a black trace to make it more visible. And then the stroke width to define how thick you want that trace to be. So because this function is taking in the word level info, we're going to calculate the duration of the current phrase, right? And that's going to be the end and the start of that phrase, because remember, we're working with this JSON here. So this is that phrase and then the start. So the duration of that phrase, we calculate it. And then we want to keep the word clips because we're working with MoviePy, and we want to create text clips for the subtitles. And this will make more sense in a little bit if you're not familiar with MoviePy. But the position of these text clips, we're going to define it here. And then the position that we start out with is 0. The X position, Y position is also 0. And then the width. So we define a few variables here. These will make more sense once I explain the rest of the code. But we want to position the highlighted word. The way MoviePy editor works is when you want to display text onto the screen, then you create a text clip and then you give it the words that you want to be in that clip. You can think of like it's superimposing an image of those words onto whatever background image you have. And when we create those subtitles, it's going to create that text clip and it's going to superimpose it on the background image. And in order to get the word to be highlighted as it's being spoken, then what we need to do is create another text clip that will be superimposed on top of the phrase, the entire phrase, and it'll be just the one word that's being spoken in a different color, and it needs to be positioned where the word is in that entire phrase. And so that's the purpose of this function. It calculates where the position of that highlighted word is, so that as we superimpose the 3 layers, the background image, the subtitle, which is the entire phrase, and then the highlighted word on top of that, it will calculate where that highlighted word should be, because if we don't calculate it, then the word will be positioned based, it could be in the center or it could be to the far left, depending on how we define the positioning. So we define the positioning in this function so that we can calculate exactly where it is in that phrase, so that as it's being spoken, that 3rd layer is superimposing correctly. So this is a little bit detailed. You can pause the video to study it a little bit more, but that's ultimately what it does. I don't want to explain this more than that because it's a lot of code, but that's ultimately what it does. It's creating the word clip, like that 2nd layer, and then it's creating the space that will be, so if you think of the phrase being displayed, we want to highlight a specific word. We're going to need a lot of space before that word and then a lot of space after that word in order for us to position that highlighted word on top of the phrase. And so that's what this is doing, is just calculating those positions, and then it's creating the position text clips for those highlighted words, and then adding those word clips, those text clips, into a list. And then after it adds the phrase level text clips, so that 2nd layer, it adds those into a list. Then it adds the word level text clips, so that 3rd layer, into that same list. And now we're ready to create the final video, because we have our text clips for the phrases, the subtitles, or the lyrics, and then we also have the text clips for the individual words as they're being spoken. So let's see, did I run this previous cell? I don't think so. So I'll run it. That's just defining the function. Now we're ready to create the video. So we have this function called create video from the image, and this is using MoviePy, and then it's using image clip from MoviePy editor, and it takes in the input audio path. So this is going to create a video using whatever audio you give it, right? And then whatever image you want to use for that video. So you can use this function to create a new video with just a still image. And that's what this is doing. It's just creating a temporary path right here. This is where we're going to store the subtitles. So it takes in that input audio path, and that audio path can be the path to the original song if we're creating a lyric video, you know, with the vocals and the instrumental, or it can be the instrumental path if we're creating a video with the lyrics displayed, but we're using an instrumental version of the song. So you can create like a karaoke video. And then it's just creating an image clip. So that first layer that I was talking about, that background image, it's going to create that background image, or a video, I should say, using that background image, and then the duration of it should be the same length as the duration of the audio, right? And then we're setting the frames per second to 30 because, you know, you can set it to anything because it's really just an image. You could set it to anything, but I set it to 30. And then we're going to create the final video using the image clip. And then we're setting the audio of that video to be whatever the audio is that we provided it. So I'm just going to run this cell. This is just defining the function. Now that we've defined this function, we can use it to create the final videos. So as I said in the beginning of this video, we're going to create two videos. One is the lyric video, and the other one is the karaoke video. Okay, so to create that lyric video, we're going to run that function that I previously described, and we're going to give it the desired audio, which is the original song, and then the image file name, which is that screenshot. Okay, so the video has been created, and right now, remember, all this function did was create a video using an image and an audio file, but it doesn't have any subtitles yet. So that's what we're going to do in this step here. We're going to take the line level subtitles, which we had defined. Let's see, where did we define those? Here, where we split the text into lines. And for each line, we're going to create a captioned video. And what this does is it creates the text clips for that specific line. And then we're giving it the frame size of the video that we're working with. The frame size, I had defined it before. I just set it to 30, just in case you change it up here or something. You want to make sure that it's the same frame size. So this is going to iterate over each line in the line level subtitles. It's going to create a caption video just using that one line. So it'll create the subtitles for that line. I give it the frame size, which is, I just take it from the input video that was created here. And then I get the position of the subtitles here by iterating over the positions from this caption video. And then once I have those subtitles and their positions, I have the max width of the display where I want to show the lyrics, and then the height, that box basically, where I'm going to keep the lyrics. I want to create a background in between the screenshot and the lyrics. So like between the first and second layers, I want to create a background so that those lyrics are more visible, and that's what this color clip is for. I'm going to superimpose it between those two layers, and I've just defined the color of that background to be this. And then the width, I defined it to be 10% more than the width of the words, and the height again is 10% more than the height of those words in a text box. So I set the opacity to be 60%, that way it's somewhat transparent. You can still see the background image. With this opacity, you can see the words clearly. They're separated from the background. And then the start time for this color clip should be the same start time and end time as the words that are being shown, because this color clip, or this text box, you can think of it, is going to be displayed for just as long as those words are, because it'll change in size depending on what the phrase that's being displayed. So I want to make sure that it's only displayed when the words that it's behind are displayed. And here I'm creating this composite video. So it's taking the color clips and I'm adding it first. The order here matters when I create the composite video clip. So I put those first, and then I can put the out clips, which are the captions for that phrase. I put those on top, and then I overlay them, and then I make sure that text box is centered, and I do that for all the lines. Once I've done that, I am ready to create my final video. So I take the video that was created here, which is just basically an image with background with noise, which is the song. Then I create, so I put that as the first layer, right? And then all my line level splits, all the subtitles, they go in after, because remember the order matters, and I want to superimpose these on top of the, or overlay them on the background image, and that's what this is doing here. And once the final video is done, I want to make sure that I set the audio, just in case for some reason this didn't work correctly. I set the audio again. Actually, I just noticed that I don't actually need this, because if the input video has audio, then I shouldn't need it, but I'll leave it in there just in case. You can see if it doesn't work. It takes a long time to run this, so I don't want to remove this and then run it, wait several minutes only to find out that it didn't work. This step should take about a minute, depending on your operating system and the resources of your computer. So this step here is just creating the final video, but it'll be in the form of a MoviePy element, but we haven't saved it anywhere, so that's what the next step is for. We need to save this MoviePy video element into a file path, so that's in this path here. Remember the sounds extension, and then I just give it an extra name so that I can distinguish it, and this will write this video into the path here, and the frames per second is defined by final video.fps. Remove temporary, I set it to true so that it deletes any temporary files that it creates while it's writing the file, and then I just set the codec and the audio codec, that final video. This step does take a long time. I think it's 10 to 15 minutes for a 3-minute video, so I will fast forward. So I don't know how long this will be, but I'll come back once it's done. Okay, that took a very long time, and I think it's because I had something running in the background. I had the recording, the screen recording, so I had to stop that, and then after that was done, anyways, I had a lot running. And it took 87 minutes. Normally it takes 15 minutes for a 3-minute video. So we can preview the video here if I just run this, and I don't think it won't play audio through this, but you can see it's highlighting the words as it's playing through. And I never made any edits. I didn't make any changes. But if I were to run the next one to create the karaoke video, right now it's just creating the MoviePy elements, and then it's going to start writing the files. And again, this is probably going to take a very long time. So I'll just finish the video here. That was the last thing to run. I'll upload the video, and then I'll post it to YouTube and post a link in the description so you can see what it looks like. And that was all that we needed to do. To summarize, we took a audio file and an MP3 file and an image to create the background, and we created a video using the image, and then we overlaid subtitles on that image. And in order to highlight each word as it was spoken, we needed to create a separate layer of words that were the highlighted or the spoken word, and that overlaid over the phrase level subtitles, lyrics. And with that, we were able to create this lyric video here. And we created 2 videos. One is the lyric video, which is the original song, and then the other one's the karaoke, just using the instrumentals. You could probably get away with just using the original song and sending that to the transcriber. That was done in the beginning, early on. I'm just going to scroll to the top. We split the original song into instrumentals and vocals using Ease Us, and we didn't need to do that. Maybe. I do think that the transcriber does better when the instrumental is removed, but you can try it out to see. If you just want to create a lyric video, you can skip that step. And then I actually found, while I was waiting for the last video to finish being created, I found that there's a tool so that you can get the lyrics of a specific song. And the tool is called Lyrics Genius. It's a Python library that you can import. You can check out the details here to see how you can import it, but it uses genius.com to pull the lyrics. And so you can use that to automate that step further rather than having to go into the website and search for the specific song that you're looking for. Anyways, that wraps it up. Hope you learned a lot from this video. And if you want to see more content like this, please subscribe to my channel. Give this video a like so that more people can see my content and motivates me to continue creating videos like this. Thank you so much and see you on the next one.